Welcome back. This is week number 17 in the Virtues Museletter. I am your host, Barbara McKenzie. Before we get started, I want to remind you that this podcast is about soul development and the understanding, relationship, and integration of the virtues in order to develop relationship with our body, mind, and spirit. We've been focused on the virtue of tolerance this week, and I've been thinking about the difference between manual overdrive and autonomic, and where willpower lies in that scenario. I think the autonomic system is not necessarily available to us because we're not conscious of it. And yet, there could be components of that depending on where our awareness is, we have more access to. And I think that same idea goes for life in general. When we are aware of things, we have more access to understanding them. And if our minds are closed, obviously we don't have access to understanding. And it just ends. There's no deeper thought. So mindfulness is so key. And I've been thinking all week about this idea of ballast, and I was talking about it in the last episode, and how tolerance plays a role. It's on a spectrum. Every virtue, I believe, is on a spectrum that goes from 0, which means we don't have it present. There's like none of it available to us. And the other end of that spectrum is the abundance. And then in the center is moderation and the ballast and what anchors us, the pendulum that swings from one side of the spectrum to the other. Because if we have no tolerance, then we are flying off the handle at every turn. If we have too much tolerance, then we could let people walk over us and abuse us. And I've been thinking about all sides of tolerance and how in my relationships I have swung around the pendulum, really. And I'm just now at the age of 61 starting to learn that there are consequences of having too much tolerance. And those of us who are traumatized as children tend to tolerate more, and it's not a healthy tolerance. It's a codependence. It's a need to be needed. We tolerate because we're afraid people abandoning us. So I've been thinking about all those things this week, and then something really interesting happened a couple of days ago. I was thinking about symbols and wondering, just thinking about this idea of two shall become one, and how does that tie in with willpower and our autonomic system, and what does that mean for our conscious thought and our soul wisdom? And I was thinking about symbols and felt very thirsty, and immediately thought about my drum. As I was walking to get myself water, I thought about how thirsty my drum must be. It's been a long time since I've taken it out and played it, and certainly I haven't hydrated it. And so I took it out of the bag, and it's so dry. It's so dry and thirsty. And this is a theme that seems to be coming through these weekly podcasts. But anyway, I have bare grease, so I began to grease down my drum, and I was looking at the painting that's on the surface of the drum, which I'm not particularly partial to, but I bought that drum because of the sound and how that resonated within me. I looked for a drum for a long time, and that one spoke to me, but I've never liked the painting on it. It's very silk screened, and the other day I was, working on this with the bear grease, and I was hydrating the leather and looking at the symbols on the image on the drum. And so there's a sun, moon, there's a yin yang, there's the animal side and the nature side, and then there's like a starburst or all around the outside of it. And for the first time in 10, I think I've had this drum 10 years at least, I noticed there's a blue zigzag running through the center of the design, which I imagine would be the river. Wow, I don't think I've ever really thought about that blue stripe before and what that means. And then moments later, did I find myself on Facebook in this group that I've signed up for with Matthew McConaughey, and somebody's asking about a drum circle. And I just spent the last hour putting bear grease on my drum, and now it's almost supple and beautiful, and haven't played it yet. It's still drinking. Just thinking about, what anchors me, talking about ballast, what anchors me, and the drum is a big part of it. And so is realizing and working and being aware of these symbols that are actively engaging me and in my life. Yeah, so that's a little bit about how tolerance has spoken to me this week. I'm shuffling my deck of 100 Virtues reflection cards from the Virtues Project, looking for the angel of virtue that will show up for us this week. Caring. Caring is giving tender attention to the people and things that matter to us. It is being a compassionate witness, listening to another wholeheartedly and without judgment. We show that we care with thoughtful acts and kind words. When we do a careful job, we give it our best. We are not indifferent to things that matter. We care deeply about the principles we believe in. Caring is a sign of love. When we care for others, we notice how they feel and what they need. When we care for ourselves, we have more to give to others. Caring is a gift from the heart. The quote on the back is by Paul Tillich, who says, "One who cares listens." The practice of caring. I take an interest in others and listen deeply. I look for ways to be considerate and helpful. I am gentle and loving with anyone and anything placed in my care. I give excellence to whatever I do. I am passionate about my beliefs. I take good care of myself. I am thankful for the gift of caring. It helps me to express my love. What speaks to me about caring right now is two-sided. Again, it's a calling and it's a confirmation. Last week, tolerance, in my considerations, I did a count of violations before I hit the age of 14. I can count 3 separate violations, let's call it, that happen multiple times, and then 7 separate violations of the sexual nature, not necessarily knowing who the people are. And my first memory, I I think I was probably 4 or 5. And then I think the last happened about age 12. So this podcast is about self-care. It's about things like the collagen elixirs that I use and the vitamins and nutrients that I take. It's about the counseling work that I do and the products that I purchase, the organic, simple ingredient, non fragrant or pure fragrant products. It's about meditation too. I've been meditating 40 plus years since I was 20. And counting my blessings is a huge part of um, my daily self-care is this mindset of being in this state of gratitude. And um, and using meditation also as a way to connect with my inner self and doing that inner work. And then, um, the water I take in, and that's a bit of a calling there too. But the mobilization I've been talking about brings me to the inner work. I talked about the counseling, but also, what I'm consuming and ingesting and listening to in terms of knowledge and awareness and self care in that regard. So, podcasters and I listen to the Crappy Childhood Fairy and people like Lisa A. Romano. And I've recently been listening to Jimmy on relationships. They're all on YouTube. I'm also, invested in physical ways. I've purchased a Herman Miller chair that arrived broken last week. So now I'm in the process of getting that fixed. But, that's an investment in myself as well so that I can be ergonomically healthy and taking care of my body as well. But all these little ways that I care for myself invests in my future self. What I do today and how that affects me in the future, it's all that matters. So this self-care brings me to more mindfulness around all of the ways that I currently care for myself and how wonderful that is and how blessed I am to and how grateful I am to the Creator for providing for me this beautiful life where I can podcast and count my blessings and drink my collagen elixirs so my skin is, remains to be beautiful in my 60s and on. Well, as you go about your week this week, I hope caring is a staple in your diet. And I hope the angel serves you and me and all of us. We need it more than ever. Caring for ourselves will help us care for each other. All right. Have a wonder-filled week.